Hi everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Secondary Digital Tool Smackdown. We are excited to have 5 secondary educators with us today to share their favorite digital learning tool. But first, I want to cover a couple of housekeeping items as we go through our webinar today. If you can hear my voice, that means you have connected to the audio successfully. Congratulations. As we go through today, please use the chat window, which you should see on the right side of your screen. If you don't see that, click on chat in the top right corner of the webinar box, and that will bring up the chat box. Make sure you keep your phone muted. It should have been muted as you joined the call today, so please keep that muted so that we don't have noises in the background that can be distracting. As soon as you think it's quiet in your house or your classroom or your office, wherever you are, somebody comes in or a bell rings or a phone rings. So please leave your line muted. Definitely use the chat box to share. Already people are sharing their favorite digital tool, and I'm glad that you're doing that. Like I said, we've got 5 great presenters today to share, but we've got a great variety of people on the call today, and lots of different things to share. So definitely share there. As you are using that chat box, make sure that you select everyone from the Send To drop-down. That defaults to me and will only send messages to me if you don't change it, and we want everybody to see what you're sharing there. If you have questions for our presenters, again, your phone lines will be muted. That's why we have the chat. So ask the presenters questions. They may answer your question during their presentation. They may wait and answer it in the chat when they're done. And I will be keeping track of any questions that don't get answered, and we will get to those at the end. Most of our presenters will be able to stay with us until the end. Kara, who will be first, has to leave. So if you have questions for her, I can get those to her, or she can share her contact information. So I think that is it. I am recording this webinar, so if you want to follow up with it at a later date, we'll have it posted early next week to mid next week. So that you'll be able to go back to that, or if you have colleagues who weren't able to join us today, they would be able to view that. So this webinar is kind of dual purpose. So we do monthly or bi-monthly webinars on a regular basis through the eLearning Lab, which you see there on our screen. And those are always technology, education-related topics. And we bring experts from the classrooms and from the schools in to share with us. This month we've been celebrating our love of digital learning. So we've been celebrating Digital Learning Month. And that was sparked by Digital Learning Day, a national celebration which actually happens this Thursday. So definitely look into that if you are interested in more things like what we're doing today. But we celebrate all month long. So we have this is our second webinar this month. We did one on an elementary digital tool Smackdown 2 weeks ago, and that webinar is now posted on our website, and you can get to it through the URL that's on the screen. It's linked from that page, and then this one today. So a couple of other things that we have going on. We are sharing teacher-created videos about their favorite learning tools, just like this, but just in video format. So we've been sharing those every Monday and Thursday this month. So we had one yesterday. We'll have another one this Thursday, and then our last one will be next Monday for Digital Learning Month. We are in week 3 of an e-learning book club. It is not too late to join. If you are interested in some great professional development, a great conversation around digital citizenship to digital leadership, and also PGP points for license renewal, definitely check out the book club. Again, you can link to that from the URL on the screen. And then our Twitter chats this month. We have Twitter chats every Thursday night, but this month they have been around Digital Learning Month, and this week is our last one. letting students take the lead on digital learning day and beyond. So if that is of interest to you, check that out, and always be using the eLearn hashtag to connect to other educators around the state, around the country, and even around the world who are using that hashtag. And I believe that is all that I have to get started. So I want to now move to our topic at hand, our Digital Tool Smackdown. We've got 5 educators with us. We've got Kara from Perry Township, Leslie from North Vermilion, Kim from Crown Point, Shelley from Pike Township, and Valerie from Wani. And each of them will be talking about their favorite digital tool, and I'm going to turn the mic over now to Kara.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Kara Heipelbeck. I'll have to apologize. I'm sick. I have illness in my household too, so I have to pull double duty tonight and jump off this to get my kids up to wrestling. But I did want to share my love for Buncee. So next. So Buncee is a creation tool, and I really believe it is a great way to do presentations or to make stories or activities come alive. It really is a way to make our students into storytellers. And what I really like to think of, especially with digital citizenship, we're turning them into digital leaders, which happens to be the book that is happening right now for the book study. So Buncee is a really cool tool. That is a live link so that you can get on to check it out if you'd like. But if you want to go on to the next slide. This is also just a short video on how does it work. Buncee is really easy to use. I know they asked us not to go through the how-tos, but more of the why. But I did want to leave a resource so that you could go back at when you have time to look at these more closely, and you can see what Buncee and how you can set it up. It's really easy for students to follow along as well. In fact, and if you want to head to the next slide, I have an example of a student work. Do you mind to click on that one? And so this is a student of mine that the assignment was they were taking a short story that they were reading in their English class. And so when I taught at the middle school level, this is a couple of years old, this assignment, 2 years old. But they had to take a short story that they were reading in their English class, and they had to make it come alive and animate it. Is it not working? Oh, I see that they don't link. So if you are able to click on that presentation when you see it, the story was Jekyll and Hyde, and the young lady was able to really make the story come to life. So she took the short story she was reading in her English class and then animated it, and we were learning about digital citizenship and making sure that we couldn't just use any graphic. We had to make sure that it was free to use or share online. But she was able to make the story come alive in through Buncee. And I think because I wasn't planning to show actually how it happens, you might have to wait until you get the presentation to click on the links, or if you've opened it up in another browser to take a look. It's a great way in order to animate presentations. It has a lot of different uses that I think in different curriculum for middle, high school, and even elementary. And so I guess right now I apologize that we aren't able to see the links right away, but if you have questions, I'd be happy to help answer. Oh, I think on the next slide it talks about some possible uses. So animation to bring stories to life. Students are able to create. There's lots of writing components. The kids are very engaged. I did this with my high school students a couple weeks ago, and even they were very engaged with the tool. It's a really cool way to have concepts visualized, even math concepts where you can put some visualization with it, excuse me. And it's a really great way to share student work. It is free, but they also have a teacher account, just like most tools, and you can manage the students' work through that platform as well. I think I just answered your cost question. It does have a free component which has all of the capabilities. The premium obviously has more features, but the free has quite a few to offer. And I think that's all I have to share. Sorry that we weren't able to see the example, but when you get the presentation later, you'll be able to click through it. And I did put my email on the next slide, so if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me.
Sorry for that confusion, Kara. And what happened, I'm sharing Acrobat. So when I did click on the link and it opened for me, but it opened in my browser. But since I was sharing Acrobat, it didn't show to you guys.
Okay. And that's fine.
So,
as long as they have the ability to link to it, they can look at the student example, because she did a really nice job making that story come to life through the animations.
Yeah, and I will share, once I get a participant list tomorrow, once I can download that from WebEx, I will send a link to the slideshow that I've saved in Google Docs to everybody. So everybody who is in the webinar now, you will be able to see that tomorrow and see any links that the presenters have shared and examples like what Kara just shared with us. Okay. Well, I don't see any other questions, so thank you. Sorry about that confusion. And
no, that's no problem.
Okay, and I hope you feel better.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Kara. So thanks to Kara, and next we will move on to Leslie Sebastian.
Hi, can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. So the app that I chose to present is Shobi, which is kind of does a little bit of everything. They market themselves as the heart of your paperless classroom, and they have both an online version, and we use iPads at our school, so it also has an app for the iPads that works on, it does different things on the iPad than what you can do on the website, but I'm going to take you through like a quick run through of some of the features that it offers, which are pretty cool and that I use like every day. So if you could go to the second slide. So some of the things that I use it for, it allows my students to do annotations. I can link it up with my gradebook. I can share. I can have parents on the same account as my students so they can see what the students are doing as what assignments I've assigned. The parents can't do the assignments, but they can actually see what the students are seeing. It allows my students to collaborate with each other. I can give them assignments. I can collect information, and like our whole school has it, so like the kindergarten teachers can collect information from kindergarten and keep it in a portfolio, and as they go through, we can go back and look at that work so we can kind of see a progression of how the student is doing from year to year. It allows you to do voice notes, both to your students and listen to voice notes from your students, and it has a great discussion feature where you can set up individual discussion groups. You can pull in as many students as you want into those discussion groups, and so they can get as big or as small as you want them to be. So those are just a few of the features. So next slide, please. Okay, so this is just a sample of one of my classrooms. You can upload almost any type of assignment, including videos. So here on the left-hand side, you can kind of see this class has done some paragraph writing. They had a puzzle. They did do some detailed stuff. I had a Venn diagram in there for them. I've also put in like excerpts of novels and been able to pull those in there, and so that they can read just pieces of a novel at a time and we can talk about them. That's really useful if we have just one novel in the class, if it's a group that's reading one novel together, and then I don't have to go buy more books, so that's useful. It's good for writing, puzzles, worksheets, quizzes. forms, diagrams, assignments, reading passages. And one of the cool things about it, like I said, we use iPads and we have Apple Classroom, so I can actually give a quiz in Shobi, lock my kids into it, and they can't collaborate with each other on quizzes because they're kind of like stuck there, and they can also, it keeps them from Googling answers and stuff, which comes in handy, and I found like that has reduced a lot of the, gosh, I don't want to call it cheating, but yeah, it's cheating, all the cheating in my classroom, so it's kind of reduced that a lot. Next slide. So it makes it really easy. There's a pen feature when you use it on an iPad. And yeah, Kim, I do use it with Google Suite. So when you use it on the iPad, students could actually write on the document just like they would if they were writing on paper. So like here's a poem that was annotated. They've underlined stuff, we're able to circle stuff, write notes, use different colors to highlight different things. Not highlight, because you can't highlight yet. They're working on that. To note different things. And so I can have every student doing the same document, or I can put different documents in for different students. So, and then I can look and see, after they've completed it, I can look and see what they've done, and I'm able to give them feedback immediately or add things to it. If I see something that they need to elaborate on, I can write on their same document, save it, and they can see what I wrote as well. That's kind of a neat feature. When you use it online, on just like on a MacBook or that kind of thing, or a laptop, the pen feature isn't available, but they are still able to use the text box or the voice recording feature, or there's a little bubble where they can do bubble type comments. So they can still use it if they don't have a device that allows them to write on things. Next slide. Okay, so one of the other things you can do is pull videos into Shobi, and then in the same assignment, you can put the note sheet for it so they can listen to the video and take notes at the same time. So that's kind of a cool feature. This one has a worksheet. You can just put a note sheet in there for them, and it kind of takes away having to use that paper piece when they're taking notes. And then I like the fact that I can put a video in there too, so if I have a student who I want to have them get a video instead of having to read something, I can do that individually for that student, so it's a really great tool to use for differentiation as well. Next video, or next slide. Okay, so you can give instruction to the students, and you can do it as a whole group, or you can do it individually. You can add verbal instructions using the recording feature, or written instructions using the comment feature. And then you can go to individual students and give individual instructions that only that student can see. So again, great for differentiation. If I have a student that maybe I only want them to answer half the questions, I can go into them privately and say just do the odd questions or whatever specific instructions I want to give them without everybody seeing it. So it's one way to keep that confidentiality piece in place. You can upload PDF documents, images, video, and you can do those also to the entire class or just to individual students, depending on what your needs are. Next slide, please. You can also give feedback, like for example, this is an actual student assignment. They were supposed to annotate the passage, and this student only did a couple of underlines and there's no comments. So I showed the different ways that you can do feedback to your students. One way, the way on the upper left is a written comment using a thought bubble type of thing, and those open and close. So the student wants to close it after they read it, they can. And then below that one on the left is just a text box comment where it stays visible to the student, although they can make the box small enough that only one line is visible. And then in the upper right-hand side is a recording, so you can leave a voice note, which is like the best feature ever, especially if you're swamped for time and you just want to go ahead and give them quick feedback without having to spend a lot of time writing something. You can just record a message to them and leave it for them, and then they can listen to it later. And they can do the same back to you, leave you recorded messages, which I found is really useful for, again, some of my lower students who take forever to type any response back that gives them an opportunity to give me any questions or problems or concerns that they're having without them having to spend 20 minutes trying to type out a sentence. Next slide, please. Oh, and that's my thing. Any questions? So that's kind of it. There's like, I could go on for a couple of hours about how useful this app has been for me, and I really like that I can use it with my Google stuff. So I use certain things in Google Classroom and Google Docs and all the different Google platforms that I like in there, especially like typing essays and stuff. I don't want to do those on Shobi because it would be too unwieldy. But when I do, I can like load an assignment into Google Classroom, and then I can pull it into Shobi if I want them to do like a reflection on it afterwards or that kind of thing. Or if a student didn't finish it and I closed out the assignment in Google Classroom, I can pull it into Shobi real quick for them and they can do it in there. So it works really well. Setting up the classroom, Laura, takes about 30 seconds because you set up the classroom yourself, and then once you have the classroom set up, you just give the students a code, and they put that code in. They go to Shobi.com and they put the code in, and they're automatically joined into your classroom. And then if you want their parents in there as well, you just there's a code that you can send the parents, and then the parents can join as well, but they can't do anything. All they can do is look at what their student is doing. The code is unique to their student, so they don't see all the students, they just see their students. So it's really, really useful. Any other questions? Okay, they do offer, Shobi is a paid platform, but they do offer a 45-day free trial. So really, if you get a chance, check it out because it's absolutely amazing what all it can do and how much it has like streamlined my life. Probably and you can archive assignments so you're only looking at the ones that are active. You can block students from working on an assignment so they can like see it, but they can't do anything to it. Or you can block it completely so they can't see it at all. Like if you're giving a quiz and you don't want them to see it before you open it, you can lock assignments that way. You can also set them up so they don't open until a certain time, so they're not going to see it. You can set it for your class period time, and they're not going to see it until then. And that's kind of pretty much all I can think of off the top of my head.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing Shobi with us, Leslie. That's one that I had never heard of before, so it's cool to hear about new opportunities. And now let's move on to Kim McRae, who is going to share SoftChalk.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Am I there?
Yep.
All right. So this next one that I wanted to share with you is called SoftChalk Cloud, as you can see. I've actually been using this for a couple of years, and most of the time when I mention it to people, they've never heard of it. So it's just one that I thought maybe would be unique for some of you. So what I really like about this tool is that it allows me to create some online lessons, content, and I can actually put it and link it right into my learning management system. We'll talk about that coming up as to what it supports, which it supports many of them. And so then my lesson actually becomes like a part of my learning management system, and it can score the students and put the grade right in the grade book. But it allows me to do so much more with the lesson than what I was able to do with just the quiz or the assessment tool in my learning management. And so for my classes specifically in computer science, my students have to write a lot of code, and I like to give them little samples of things that we've done and then test them a quick little question just to see how they're doing. So I'll use these a lot as kind of formative assessments throughout my lesson so that I can kind of see just kind of where they're at and break things down into very basic, and it just allows me to do more with it than just a question and answer like our learning management assessments allow us to do. So this is from their site. They say that this allows you to create your own engaging, interactive, personalized online lessons that your students can access anytime, anywhere, and on any device. So Mac or Windows, it's supported either way. You can go ahead to the next slide. So This next slide is just really, again, just kind of breaking down what you can use it for. Interactive digital lessons, you can put it right into your learning management system. If you want, you can have it link up with your gradebook, and then also it has a ton of support and training online. It does cost. They do give you a 30-day free trial, but I felt like the cost was pretty reasonable for the amount of students that end up using my my lessons, and I can just absorb that across the student at a pretty low cost compared to some other things that I've looked at. You can go ahead to the next slide. So I'm going to show you guys just some examples of the window and the different types of things you can put into it in just a minute. One thing I really like about it is it does give you the ability to create an ebook. You can take all the lessons that you've created, and what I do is I just break it down by chapter, and I pretty much have been using it as a review tool. So I take the things that I've been teaching them and I just kind of review the main points and give them the little checkpoint questions. And you can actually package it as an ebook, and the students can just download their e-reader app to be able to view it. And if you wanted to use it that way, you could. And so if you go on to the next slide, I'll show you. So basically you're going to create an account and then go on and install the SoftChalk Create application, and this is what it looks like. And it looks pretty much like most applications, word processing type of applications that you're used to. You have this whole window here to create the actual content that the students would use, kind of like just creating a book or whatever you want to do. And then at any point when you're ready to put in the interactivity, there's the insert menu at the top that allows you to insert a variety of different activities and tools and questions. So if you go on to the next slide, you can see this next slide shows the different types of quiz questions you could put in. So the typical essay and feedback and the ones that you're probably used to. True, false, you can even put in, a lot of them have their own little videos, so if you're not sure how to put it in, you can see at the bottom of that menu it says Quiz Popper How-To video. And so you can just kind of be like, I don't know how to put that in, and just watch that real quick, and it shows you exactly how to do the variety of questions. Once you select one of those, then you get a whole other window that will come up that allows you to put in the actual question and put in the, depending on the type of question you chose, put in the various answers that students can choose from, and put in feedback if they get it right, or maybe give them a hint if they get it wrong. So that's a whole other window that will pop up based on the type of question you chose there. If you go on to the next one, there are also some different activities. So this is what I really like to do. The questions, I mean, they're kind of like, I can do those in my assessment, but I really like these because I can do some kind of like, you can see here, drag and drop, flashcards. I can put in, have them order things or label. I can put in an image and have them label different parts to it. I can have them do a timeline. All these different types of activities actually get embedded right into the content. So as they're viewing it, it just looks like a, like I said, like an interactive lesson where you give them information and then maybe you insert a did you know or a drag and drop activity, or and you can assign points to these so they will know, you know, like this is a 5-point little drag and drop, and then they get a little option of, you know, going in. Some of them will give you little practice ones before they actually take the real ones, and others you just, you know, put in there and they do it for 5 points. And at the end you might have a 30-point assignment or a 20-point assignment that will score the entire thing. Let's go on to the next one. You'll see we also have the ability to put in some different types of media right into the lesson. If you want to insert a video that they need to watch or something else that you see there, you can do an inline player. So it's right there and they can just click it to watch, and then maybe do some questions to follow up. And go on to the next one. For those of you that also maybe do some things with math, I just wanted to throw this in here. You can go ahead and insert some math characters if it's something you can't type off the keyboard. You can go ahead and insert those to get formulas or functions or things in there. The next slide, I do have an example of one of the very quick little portion of a question or a review that I did, and so this was a part of a bigger page. I kind of had a big heading at the top and then described and gave them some summary of how to do this, and then I went ahead and gave them an example of how to break down what I had just told them, and then I went ahead and gave them a question. Go ahead and try this question now. So then they try it and they answer it, and they can check their answer, and it'll come up saying, you know, whether they got it right or whatever. And so this is just a small little snapshot of a question. So basically, this is what it is. You can format it with all the different font options and make it look like a digital book with the various questions throughout. But what I think the most powerful part of this is actually this next slide that talks about how to get it into your own learning management system. This is where I found it is the most useful for me. I can actually take my lesson that I've just created then, and I can, and they tell you exactly how to do it based on your learning management system. They'll tell you, walk you through step by step exactly how to do this process of creating a link to the lesson, and it actually embeds it into your learning management system. And so when the students go and click on an assignment, it pops up in your window. It does not go out to, you know, the website or anything. It pops up right into your learning management window. They view it just like, they view it and interact with it just like they would if it was an assignment that you made in your system. Go ahead to the next one. This is some of the learning management systems that they support, and there's some others there too. And if they also have, if yours is not on here, then let them know. In fact, mine's not listed here. We use Buzz, which used to be called Brain Honey. I don't know if anyone else in the state uses that, but they didn't support that when I first started using them, and I emailed them and I said, do you plan on supporting this learning management system? And they literally within the year, next time I went on to SoftChalk, it was there, and so now I can use it. And so I know some of these, I know Moodle and Blackboard and some of those Schoology and Brightspace, I know are ones that I've heard people use throughout the state. Power School, I believe, is on there. If you go to the next slide, you can see what a student would see if they are in it. So this is a picture of their screen, and you can kind of see, this is not the same exact question as you saw a minute ago, but you can see that this is a drop-down. So I have the questions where they just click the drop-down, and they choose the answers, and then they click check, and then it goes through and it tells them you got all 4 right, and then how many points scored on this item. And at the bottom, you can see that this total review that I have in here is worth 31 points, and this was just 4. And then as they go, it's showing them their score. And then when they get to the end, there'll be like a button for them to hit submit or score, and then it scores their entire activity, and it goes right into my grade book. And if you go to the next slide, you'll see this is what I see when I go into my teacher side of my LMS. You can see that when I click on the activity, I can click on the red view lesson, and that would kind of let me see what they just saw. I can also do all my settings here. So I can put in what the grading method is going to be, how many attempts they get. I can go in and say I'm going to complete all the attempts because they've had enough time to do it. They can't do it anymore. So basically kind of finalizes it. I can go through each screen and look at all my individual tests that have been taken. I can click on the students and look to see what answers they gave. And so if it didn't maybe match exactly the answer I had, like in a fill-in or something, I can go in and manually give them that point. And so this is kind of how I control the settings for the actual assignment. Yeah, so the next slide just kind of talks about what I just said about how you can manage the settings. Once you have them complete the lessons, you can go in and actually look at the answers they've given you to see if they actually attempted it or if they just, you know, click through it or whatever. And this last slide, if you want to go one more, is actually what another really neat thing about it. I haven't used it a whole lot because of my area, but if you look at this, there's a whole repository for lessons that other people have chosen to put here that you can search, and maybe you can find a lesson on a topic that you have already, that you're, you know, going through, and you could use this to start with, or you could use this as a quick little follow-up. It's possible that somebody has done even the same kind of, maybe they're teaching the same topic for the same state, for the same course, whatever that you teach, that maybe something is very similar. So you can go in here and actually search. You can see all the filters you can put on that. But I just think it can be so much more versatile than just, being able to create a lesson with just multiple choice or just fill-ins or just, and in my learning management system, maybe some are better. I really can't put in videos, and I can put in images, but I can't put in videos, I can't put in drop downs, I can't put in those activities right there and then, have them practice and then test them and actually make it a scored activity if I want. So for me, it has been very useful. So if you're interested in getting started, I just sent the little link there that you could find it online. And like I said, there is a 30-day trial period. You can look at the different cost options they have and, see what might fit best for you. But I would suggest give it a try if you think it's something you could use. See what you can do with it. Look at all the tutorials they have online. They have a lot to help you navigate through it. And if you think it's worth the money, check it out. I think it's been really helpful. Are there any questions that anyone would have about it?
I haven't seen any questions come in, so I would say if anybody has questions, they can follow up with Kim in the chat box. Thank you so much, Kim. That was really cool. Again, that was the second app that I was unfamiliar with, so hopefully some people on the call will find that useful and will look for more information. So let's move on to Shelley Smith, and she is going to talk to us about Flipgrid.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, there we go. Well, this one, I think most people know this one. It's really had a spark the last year or so, but I like to talk about Flipgrid because I think it allows for student voice anywhere from K through 12. So if you could go to the next slide. Flipgrid is really, if you haven't used it or seen it, it's a video discussion platform where I said teachers add topics and students share the video responses, but honestly we've had instances where the students have, posted the topic and then they've shared that. So it can really go either way. It's flexible. It kind of reminds me of the Brady Bunch, the square like that. So that's kind of what the grid looks like. If you could go to the next slide. I think the power of Flipgrid is that it makes thinking a little more visible, and students, they're so connected anyway that they are more willing to share their opinion, what they understand, and their skills and their talents with others. I think that it's very easy for them to use, and so that way we focus on not just the tool but the outcome. And again, those kids like in the back row that might be nervous about, sharing things, I think this gives them the opportunity to, have a voice. Next slide. So Flipgrid can be used for a lot of different ways. I have used it. I recently moved to the high school position, and so I've used it in both high school and the elementary. At the elementary level, we used it for the end of the year, the fifth graders leaving, and so we had a grid where the teachers wished the students well, and then we decided to have the superintendent wish them luck over the summer and, to get them ready to go to middle school. And then the middle school principals put a comment on or a discussion post on about welcoming them to middle school. So we've used it, and since then we've used it in different ways in the elementary. And then at the high school, we've used it for students to reflect on their production, their participation in our musical, which was in the Heights, and it was a really big undertaking. So they shared that. Back to school night, we created a grid and had teachers welcome the students and families back, and so we have mobile Promethean panels, and we put those outside the entrances and let them play so that parents could listen to that. We're doing a book study right now, the secondary librarian, so we're using a Flipgrid for our book study. It's just so versatile. It can be used for so many things. And the next slide. And so these were just a couple of the examples that I have used. There are tons of them out there, and the great thing about Flipgrid is they're very responsive, especially if you're on Twitter. They will, tweet back to you. They will, retweet. They will contact you if needed. There is the free version that is like, the freemium, I guess, is what I'm thinking, like freemium. You've got the free version, and then you can, do like one grid. I think that's what it is. And so that one is what I started with, but realized that I was probably going to use it enough, and so I purchased like a classroom subscription. So I get unlimited grids. They've just added a new feature called co-pilot, so you can have someone else, work with you on that grid. But it's relatively inexpensive, and they're always coming up with new things and having teacher input and doing chats. I think it was $65 for a classroom subscription. So, and I think that's about it. I think that's the last slide, but I'm not sure if we go forward. Yep, that was it. So any questions?
I have not seen any come in. There's a comment about using it with foreign language or teaching ELA students. So.
Yes. Yep.
Excellent.
Yep. And we use Canvas as our learning management system. I know it plays well with Canvas, and I think most other things too. So it's very easy to use.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And this has been a popular one. We had one of our teacher video yesterday was about Flipgrid, and then somebody shared Flipgrid in our elementary digital tool Smackdown. So it has gotten a lot of attention, at least here in Indiana this month.
Yes.
Yeah, excellent. Well, thank you so much for sharing. And if anybody comes up with questions as you're thinking about it, please share them in the chat box. And now we will move to, you're welcome, thank you so much. We will move on to our last presenter. Valerie is going to share Skype in the classroom with us.
Hello.
Hi, Valerie, thank you.
My name is Valerie Anglemyer, and I'm a 7th grade language arts teacher and an instructional coach at Northwood Middle School in Wakarusa, Indiana, up near the Michigan border. And I'm also a Microsoft Innovative Educator expert and a Skype master teacher. I'm really passionate about global learning and collaboration. And so I've been using Skype for the past 3 years to open my students to the world. We're in a very rural and small school. And so however I can open their eyes to the world outside of our little area, I make a point to do so. So if you could change the slide. So Skype in the Classroom is a section of the Microsoft in Education website. It's completely free to get on and look through and use any of the tools I'm going to talk about today. Through this portal, teachers have free access to resources that include global projects, virtual field trips, mystery Skype connections, and training opportunities. Like I said, I love that Skype in the Classroom is 100% free to all educators, You just have to register for the Microsoft in Education community, which just requires an email address and adding a username and password. And then you create a profile, and then you can get started. The next slide. So when you first get to the Skype in the Classroom page, there are some basic steps that get you started. One of the other things that I love about using Skype is that it really only takes one device. As long as your device has internet and a webcam, you can use Skype in your classroom. For a while, our school didn't have a lot of technology, and so this was one way that I could leverage technology in my classroom just using my teacher device. So within the Skype in the Classroom page, you can look at 4 different types of Skype activities, which I'm going to talk about in depth a little bit later. There are Skype lessons, collaborations, virtual field trips, and then mystery Skype opportunities. The next slide, please. Skype lessons are live learning activities. These are put together by experts through Skype around a specific topic or theme. Right now we're in the middle of Literacy Month, and so there are a lot of authors that are listed on the page from publishers like Scholastic and Penguin. So these authors will give live lessons to your students about writing. They will give students ideas for coming up with story topics. They could explore different topics such as different science topics. We recently Skyped with an agent who resettles refugees, so we were able to talk with her and find out what that process really involved because we looked at the Syrian refugee crisis this year. So many of the lessons come with materials like lesson plans and videos and discussion questions that you can use in your classroom before the call or after the call. And each lesson is really interactive. So if your students have a question, they just need to raise their hand, and the presenter will probably pause their talk and have a conversation with your student, which I think is so powerful to give students that voice in their learning. The second one is Skype collaborations, and this happens to be my favorite of all of them. So these are collaboration opportunities that teachers from around the world have created. Many of them include creating projects with other classes, doing virtual responses to questions, and live connections with classrooms around the world. So there are a lot of these that have been really popular this year. One of them was the 5-week climate action project that involved students creating a product that they would show other classrooms around the world about climate change. The second one that we participated in this year was the virtual Valentine exchange. And being a language arts teacher, this is like my favorite place to do figures of speech. So we basically created digital Valentines and exchanged them with classrooms around the world. We did a couple of live Skypes where we showed our Valentines physically in front of the camera. We also used Flipgrid, which was just mentioned, to share our Valentines with people all around the world, which was really awesome. An upcoming collaboration is called Squiggles of Awesome, and if you just Google it or go to the Skype in the Classroom page, it'll probably be highlighted because it is one of the ones that they are pushing for this next month. Squiggles of Awesome is really great because all you have to do is have students draw. And so this could take many different formats for many different content areas. My students are getting ready to learn about the Sustainable Development Goals, and so we will probably focus our drawings on some of the big world problems that we'll be studying. Art teachers love this one. Students of all ages love to participate just because it's very relaxed. And then when you have your Skype call, you just connect with another class through the Skype in the Classroom, gets you a partner, and then you get to show your drawings and just have conversations with people. And I just love those conversations because I think students learn, they practice their great speaking and listening skills, but they also learn that we're not all so different around the world. Currently, there is a Cultivate World Literacy project that is aligning with World Read Aloud Day, which already happened through Skype, where we're looking at literacy, and that one's about to wrap up. Going forward, there are going to be a number of special collaborations that you just have to keep checking the Skype in the Classroom page to see what's new and what's out there. The greatest part about Skype collaborations is that teachers, any teacher, could create their own. So if you are studying something in particular in your content area and you want to find a class who would like to have a conversation or study the same thing at the same time, you can build your own Skype collaboration, and then teachers will be able to reach out and connect with you through that. The next slide, please. The next section of Skype is the virtual field trip, and this is where I would suggest that any beginners with Skype would start. Virtual field trips are literally a field trip that you get to watch on your screen. So students will be taken to places like zoos or conservation agencies, and they will hear from experts who have a presentation prepared for them. They will also be able to ask their experts questions and things like that. One of my favorite Skype moments happened when we were Skyping with the sloth sanctuary in Suriname, South America. My students were just, fascinated by these sloths that they got to see live on the screen. And we just happened to hear the presenter speak to someone who was off camera, and he spoke Dutch. And about 20% of my student population is Amish, and so they understand Dutch. And that started an amazing conversation about why are they speaking Dutch down in South America. And we were able, after the call ended, to talk about colonization, which they were learning in their social studies classrooms. So it's really neat that Skype provided an avenue for these authentic learning moments that maybe wouldn't have happened without that call. In the secondary classroom, it is often really difficult to find things that match your schedule. I know our middle school schedule has strange times, and some days it's a different schedule, but I've really found that the people that facilitate these virtual field trips are very open to working with you. So when you go to request an activity or a virtual field trip, you'll click on the icon for it, and a calendar will often pop up. And you can choose a date and a time. And so when I have classes that meet multiple times, I'll just request one of them, and then I'll put in the notes that I would like to do this Skype call at these other times. And most of the time, I would say all but one, we were able to do that within a 2-day window. So some of my classes did it on Monday, and some of my classes were able to do it on Tuesday. So don't let your schedule scare you away of those virtual field trips. And then finally, Mystery Skype is a great activity to foster creative thinking and critical thinking in your students. Mystery Skype is a global guessing game where students try to identify the location of their partner classroom before the partner classroom identifies their location. In the secondary classroom, we use a lot of geography skills with this, but we also use a lot of skills about problem solving, and we look at our line of questioning and see if our questioning is sequential and makes sense. We've had a lot of great conversations about critical thinking based on a Mystery Skype call. Next slide, please. So overall, Skype in the classroom has been one of the most impactful pieces of technology that I've been able to incorporate over the past few years. My students absolutely love participating in these calls, and even some of those grumpy older students love to get to connect with people around the world. Steve Auslander and I are 2 Skype master teachers within the state of Indiana, and this means that we've had some experience with Skype and we've gone through some training, so we are here to support teachers throughout the states and throughout the United States to be able to incorporate this awesome tool in their classrooms. Upcoming events on Skype, there's going to be a really big event in February next week, and it's called Here's Hank, and it's going to feature the Fonz, Harry Winkler, and Lynn Oliver, and they're going to introduce their new novel. In March, they're going to focus on careers, so there will be some brand new guest speakers and virtual field trips about that. In April, they focus on Earth Day, so there will be a lot of opportunities with Earth Day as well as they pull in conservation organizations and things like that. So Skype in the classroom is definitely something to try. I know that it takes courage to try something like that. If you have a coach, don't be afraid to pull them in, and if you don't have a coach and you just want to practice with someone, reach out to Steve or I, and we're happy to have our students Skype with you, even just if it's just you yourself, or if you want to do a trial run with your classroom, because we've been there, we understand how scary that can be, but once you see the power of Skype, I hope that you can just unlock the world for your students. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Valerie. Skype is such a cool tool when we're on a limited budget to do field trips, and some field trips aren't possible. What a great opportunity Skype is to get our kids out of their classrooms, out of their schools, out of their area, and just have a lot of exposure to a lot of really cool things. And we're very lucky to have Valerie and Steve as resources in the state. So if you are interested in Skype, definitely reach out to one of the two of them. And Skype is another one of our repeat topics from this month. Steve was actually on our elementary digital tool webinar 2 weeks ago, so he is in that recording, so got double coverage this month. So thank you very much, Valerie. So we haven't had any questions come in, so that means either everyone is overwhelmed or everyone just is going to take what they've heard back, think about it a little bit, and the idea is definitely not to go back and use all of these resources, but think about one that you can try with your students, with either one class or one small group or all of them, just baby steps, and just try some new things and see where it takes you. So thank you so much to Kara, Shelley, Wesley, Valerie, and Kim for sharing with us today, for taking time out of their busy schedules to prepare for this and then to be on the call today. And as I said, I am recording the webinar, and I hope to have that posted by the middle of next week so that you all can view this again if you would like, or share it with coworkers. I will share a link to the slideshow with you all probably tomorrow when I am able to download the participant list, and I will get that to you guys. And then you'll be able to click on any links that were shared in the presenters' slideshows. On this slide here, we've just got a variety of different ways to connect with us. We like to, we hope that we're sharing useful information with you or connecting you with the people that you need to be connected with. So we are trying to reach everybody where they are, so we are on all of these different platforms. So definitely reach out to us. And I mentioned earlier that we do regular webinars. So next month we will return to kind of a regular schedule. We don't have those scheduled yet, but I am working on one about LMSs, just different things that you can do in an LMS. We're going to try to have somebody that's utilizing one of the 4 most used LMSs according to our tech plan data. So we'll have educators who are utilizing the LMSs and how they're using them. So hopefully, whether you are already using an LMS in your school or you aren't, you'll be able to pick up some useful information from that. I am also working with one of our literacy specialists at the department to do a webinar about student voice. So watch for information coming out soon about those webinars and dates, and we always tweet that information out when it's available. So again, thank you to our 5 presenters today, and thank you for all of you who participated, who took an hour out of your afternoon to join us today. And we hope to see you online or in a webinar or in some other opportunity that we have soon. Thank you so much.